Morning, afternoon, evening. Welcome to the latest Same Old Arsenal podcast. It's me, Suburban Gooner Chris, joined by Amanda, Gooner Girl 1969, James Cook, J.E. Cook 96. And I'm going to fire the first volley across to those of you who have joined us in chat. Please do so. Post your questions. Hopefully you're well. We're all well. And we are all in, well, I wouldn't say fine form, but physically, I guess, and mentally, we're all right. But frankly, I don't know about you guys in the chat. Let me know. And I don't know about my wonderful co-hosts, but frankly, I can't be asked. That was the most turgid 90 minutes of football, Amanda, wasn't it?
Well, it got a little bit better in the second half when Declan Rice did what Declan Rice did. It did get a bit. Oh, come on! The first half was so bad that I was checking to make sure everyone was asleep because it was so bad.
It got better for Man United because they had two really good chances and they had a ball off the line in the last minute. It got better for Man United. It didn't get better for Arsenal.
Well, it did because we scored. You've got to say that because we had. I mean, I think our first chance was Marino, wasn't it, on the 9th minute? I actually wrote that down. And then from then on, it's just been. I actually don't know how we scored 7 against PSV because I was away on a trip and could only watch the second half. So while I was in the restaurant, Carl was messaging me saying, "We've scored." I went, "Really? Have we? Oh, wow. Didn't expect that." Obviously, then didn't expect 7. But we're just bipolar. That's all I can put. Our team is bipolar. It is a joke. The thing is, if we wouldn't have scored 7, we would have expected this because we all saw what we saw at the Emirates, didn't we? That it was against West Ham, it was exactly the same. But before we start, thanks to everyone for joining us because can't be easy. I bet loads of you don't really want to join us. But put your comments in the chat room and we'll bring it out. But anyway, Cookie, I mean, go on, let rip.
Let it rip. Be careful where you say that, Amanda. Yeah, where to pick up where you haven't already left off. I mean, it was just a bit turgid, really. Like you said, Chris, it just feels like we're going to see a lot of these types of performances in the next, couple of remaining months of the season because the blueprint to play against us is so bleeding obvious at the minute. Just low block. If you can get a chance on the counter. And the reality is a lot of teams are going to be more than happy with a point against us. So I think we're going to see this a hell of a lot more. Probably not against Liverpool when we go to Anfield. I reckon they'll come out and play against us. You know, even if we get, say, Real Madrid in the Champions League, I'd expect them to come up and play a bit more expansively against us. But for teams like Man United, Forest, West Ham, even Chelsea next week, they're going to be happy with a point. You're just going to see them playing this way. And you can't blame them because it's just a really easy blueprint to play against because we've just got nothing up top. We've just got no creativity. And okay, we scored 7 against PSV. They let us play that way, had some brilliant individual performances. But today it was just similar problems that we've seen, not just during this injury crisis, but before Saka, before Martinelli, before Havertz even got injured, where we get to the final third and we just slow it down. There were so many times where we had opportunities to break today and we just end up stopping, pirouetting, playing it sideways, playing it backwards. And that's just been kind of indicative of the type of football we've played in an attacking sense this season. So, yeah, really disappointing. Dare I say, given how bad we were, I'm not too dejected with a point. I think if we'd have lost this game, it would have been a catastrophe. But much like you, Chris, I'm just kind of thinking or feeling, what's the point now? Because we know what is going to happen at the end of the season. We know how it's going to end up. And I just think, you know what really annoys me? I don't know about you guys, but the way Sky Sports are trying everything in their power to keep this title race in massive inverted commas alive. And they're saying things like, oh, Liverpool will be really happy with that. Well, you know, it doesn't really matter if we win, lose or draw this game. Like the league is done. Let's stop talking about it. We just need to ensure we get Champions League football next season.
Yep, that's basically how I feel. It's quite depressing. And frankly, the only good news from today, Declan Rice, obviously goal notwithstanding, was that we saw Gabriel Martinelli back. So at least that's one attacking option that we can look for. Because frankly, what I saw from Leandro Trossard, I joked about this on socials. I called him Drossard because I just thought he was crap today. I thought Trossard was crap. I thought Marino nearly cost us. There's one Man United chance where he dwelt on the ball. He lost the ball in our final third. What really cheeses me off is that's not a great Man United team. To answer your question earlier, Amanda, about PSV, they're a team that are towards the top of their league and they're used to winning football matches. So they want to come out and win football matches. And they're at home, and it's in the Champions League and it's a knockout game. So it's kind of different game states. Today, Man United have nothing to play for in the league. All they want is a draw. And that's why they're going to sit in low block and do nothing. I mean, they were so bad. It was literally route one-ing whenever they could. They just route one-ed it to David Raya. We absolutely dominated in possession. Gary Neville said it, and I agree with him. Defensive third at times we were a little bit shaky, but broadly speaking, we're all right. Middle third, we're pretty dominant. But as soon as it gets into the final third, it's just painful to watch. So, Amanda, let's pick the bones out of it. Go on.
Sorry, I just want to go back onto the PSV. I totally get what you're saying, but we still scored 7 goals, Chris. I mean, that is unbelievable. Watching our side lately, to score 7 goals is very strange. 1, maybe 2. You could sort of go, okay, PSV came out, we had a bit of luck, but we still scored 7 goals. And I kept saying, obviously I was down on the south coast, and I was literally in my hotel room thinking, could we have not saved one of those to West Ham, one of those for Villa, or whatever? My brain has gone because I haven't watched football this last couple of weeks. I can't think my head, but some of the games that we've drawn, we could have done with some of those goals, unlike today. So today has gone back to what I expected, because you two had given up the league way before me. I had not given up the league. I would never give the league up in February. However, just going back, because I haven't been on the pod for quite a few weeks, the minute we lost to West Ham and I was walking out the Emirates, I was done. There's none of this, like, I get called 2 names. I get called toxic negative or toxic positive, whatever it is. I'm not toxic anything. I just don't give up the league in February. However, I don't give up the league in February if we've got a strike force. I certainly wouldn't have given it up. But we don't have a strike force. And we got Martinelli just coming back. He wasn't on fire before he left anyway, but he's better than what we've got. Absolutely. And we've got to give him time to get match fit anyway. Gave up the league and just thought, okay, well, the season's done. We're not going to win the Champions League. And obviously, Wednesday night's given us a little bit of hope to get through to the next round. Well, I would hope that we are through to the next round. I hope we do not concede 6 goals on Wednesday evening. But today was really what I expected. Man United are so poor, but yet they are a bit of a bogey side at Old Trafford for us. We're not playing, apart from PSV, we're not playing well at all. Against West Ham was disgraceful. I don't even know. I don't know if you did do a podcast, but if you did, I don't even know how you did it. I couldn't have even spoken. I just don't know. I mean, we got PSV this Wednesday. You got Chelsea next Sunday, and you're just sitting here thinking, who's going to score against Chelsea? Who's going to do it? Is anyone? We're all praying that Saka comes back very quickly, and we get some oomph in our side. We've got no oomph. And something you tweeted is something I said, Chris, to Carl. I said, Winery hasn't really done it today, has he? And he went, oh, he's only 17. You've got to give him a chance. I said, yeah, I know, but we've been praising him to the hilt. It's probably not his fault. He didn't have much support, did he, out there? But it was just such a weird game. Raya, I mean, we need to talk about this. Raya for the free kick. For a start, it was 11.2 yards. The wall was so far back, and Raya, for me, was slightly out of position. Does anyone agree?
Well, I think the fact that the rules haven't been applied, because it's supposed to be 10 yards, isn't it, James?
Yeah.
The fact that the rules haven't been applied just feels like it sums up our season. We did podcast last week, and both James and I said on beforehand and then on the pod that we just kind of want this domestic season to be over now. Like, if I could fast forward it, I just would. And what I said last week, I will reiterate, and then I'll get you to talk about their goal, James, and the 11.2 yards away, and your thoughts about, well, there's a few things that Amanda talked about there. But what I said last week was that the reason why I was talking about it's done before, well, West Ham definitely, but even before then, was because I didn't have the hope of where our goals were going to come from. After the Havertz, after the Gabriel Jesus, after the Saka injuries, with all of those injuries, we knew that this was going to be problematic. We knew that it was going to get difficult. But what you would hope for is you've got the personnel. But because of what we did in January, and James and I, we won't really litigate it because you and I spoke about it last week. So there's no point going back over it. But because of what happened, because of the lack of options, I don't have any belief. So, Jimbo, where are you at in terms of the goal that they scored? Does it just feel like I was almost just shrugged my shoulders because I was like, this is just our season. This is what's happened this season. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong.
Well, it's just predictable, isn't it? We dominated that first half. I don't think there's anyone that would dispute that, but we created next to nothing. I can't think of one genuine clear-cut chance that we had in that first half. Had plenty of the ball, some really nice fluid passing movements, but when we got within 20 yards of their goal, we ended up somehow back in the centre circle every single time. Their goal, it is so typical of Arsenal that you take control of the game for the entire first half, make one sloppy error, which it was. It was poor from Calafiori and Trossard to give away that free kick. The wall is further back than it should have been. And you just knew before Fernandes was going to take that free kick that it was going in. It was that entirely predictable. So, I wasn't surprised. And like you, Chris, I just kind of shrugged my shoulders like, well, that really does sum up where we are in a minute. And I just really worried because I didn't see how we were going to get back into this game. Exactly the same as it was against West Ham. We go a goal down. We're not coming back to win this game. And thank the Lord for Declan Rice for getting an equaliser. Because like I said earlier, a loss here would have been, I think, quite catastrophic. I think that would have been really, really bad. A draw is still really bad, but it's a bit more palatable. But yeah, it's just where we are. What more can you say? I think it's going to be much the same against Chelsea. I think it's going to be much the same for the rest of the season. I think we're pretty much going to be doing this podcast on repeat for the next 2 months.
Yeah, I think I wrote about it or I said it on social media, Amanda. I just almost feel like we need to just win our 5 home games. Again, I don't know where the goal's going to come from at the moment. Martinelli back will help, but we need to win our next 5. We need to win our 5 home games. Probably get a win or 2 away from home, 1 or 2 wins, and just finish in the top 4. Who cares if you finish 2nd, 3rd, or 4th? It doesn't really matter. Let's do something else, Amanda. I'll kick off with you, then I'll go James, and then I'll go last. I want you to pick 2 players today, one that you thought played well and one that you thought played poor. And James, after Amanda's picked, try and pick just different players so we've got a bit of a discussion going.
Who played well? Right, I'll go with the worst. I think Trossard. Who played well? Well, Declan Rice in the second half made a fantastic defensive. I can't think of the word. Sorry, my brain.
Tackle.
Beautiful. I've got brain fog. But David Raya, he's like bad positioning. But look at those saves at the end. He saved us. Brilliant saves. He would have been player of the match, wouldn't he? Player of the game. Absolutely. If it wasn't for that free kick, I think. Superb save. So I'm going to go sort of Rice and Raya, but Trossard for me, no. Trossard. Yeah, I think. Let me just say, Trossard's either on it or he's shocking. There's nothing in between, ever.
Yeah. What do you think, James, on Trossard and Rice, and then pick your 2 players, one good, one bad?
I totally agree with Amanda. He either blows hot or cold. It would just be nice if you could rely on at least 6.5 from him out every week, but you can't. He's either an 8, 9 out of 10, or he's a 2. Like, he is such a bizarre player in that sense. I think it's more noticeable after the European games that he tends to play not so well. But I thought he was really good against PSV. When he's got space, when he's got time that he can exploit, he's a really good player. Rice, I thought, was really the driving force of the team. He was the one that was trying to get things going, and he'd probably be my pick for the Arsenal man of the match, which isn't really saying much, but he got the equalising goal. made that brilliant tackle on Højlund. For me, yeah, definitely quite easily earned man of the match. In terms of the worst player, I mean, I think there's two I could pick out. And I mean, I don't know if you want me to save one for you, Chris, but
just pick one. I'll run out of players if you keep picking players.
I think I know who you're going to go for.
Well, there is one that I hope we talk about who I was really disappointed with, but the one that I'm going to pick is Martin Ødegaard in this instance, because I was so impressed with him in midweek, and then he just came crashing back down to earth again today. I thought he was doing all the things that he was doing wrong previously before the PSV game. You know, PSV just looked like a totally different player. He looked so good, whereas today he was just, again, turning on a sixpence, going around in circles, playing it backwards, doing those lob passes into the box that go absolutely nowhere. And he even said after the PSV game, look, I need to kick on now. You know, we need to see this more consistently. So yeah, really disappointed with him from that point of view. But there is one other that I'm hoping you'll go for, Chris, that I was really disappointed with.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll comment on your selection choices and Amanda's selection choices. Amanda, I'll let you have your say if you want on. So who did you pick as your good player? Because you said Declan Rice, but Amanda.
Rice.
So we went Rice and Raya because splitting that half.
Well, you have Raya, I'll have Rice.
Okay.
All right, fine. I think you're right. I think the distance between the ball and the wall makes an impact, because they did jump as well. So that has had an impact. So I think that's slightly unfortunate. So I'm willing to forego that. And I think David Raya overall had a good game, made some very, very good saves. There was a really good save from who was it? Was it Mazrahi, where Raya just sort of towed it away? Again, caught on the counter. And in terms of Declan Rice, I don't think I can argue with you guys. He was definitely the best player on the pitch. He got that award-winning tackle. He got that goal for us, and he bossed a lot of the middle of the park. I think Trossard, I've kind of spoken about. I really like your description of he's either good or he's terrible, but we've had more bad performances this season than good, and that's the real shame. And I'm going to agree with you on Ødegaard, and it drives his finishing. Somebody said it to me. I think it was Giles actually said it to me a few weeks ago. His finishing is terrible, and it was Johnny Cochran. And I've never really paid attention to it. But for the last 3 or 4 games, I've been watching his finishing, not PSV. So PSV notwithstanding. But
well, even look at the PSV game, Chris. Like the one, sorry, mate, the ones he scored against PSV, that one that he did put in the back, and it was like right down the middle. The goalkeeper could have got a glove to it. And then that other one, which was a terrible save from the keeper, which bounced in. I feel like I'm really scapegoating him here because he was excellent against PSV, deserved those 2 goals. But on your point that his finishing is dreadful, it's fallen off a cliff edge. Like when you consider he scored 15 league goals a couple of seasons ago, where is that player?
Yeah, I think there's been some injuries. I think he's obviously been ill as well. You've got the kid situation, and I think they've all compounded themselves. There was a time a few weeks back when he literally looked gaunt in the face, where he'd obviously just been thrown up and lost a lot of weight or something. Amanda, you look like you want to say some things on Ødegaard, so go on. I'll pick my players after you've had your say.
It wasn't actually Ødegaard, it was more Trossard, because we used to love him as a super sub. I think that's his level. And someone just put it in the chat before when I was thinking it. He's super sub. He's playing too much. He's not good enough. He's not. We can't have this inconsistency where we don't know if a shocking Trossard's going to turn up or a wonderful Ødegaard's going to turn up, because we just know from the first few minutes. With regards to Ødegaard, it pains me because, like all of you, we all love and adore him. But I did say, and I said it before, that when she was pregnant, I said normally the player not as good. He's not been as good. We've had a couple of good games out of him. I don't think he was horrific today, like everyone's saying in the chat room. But it is a concern because he's missing Saka. We know that. Them two are like the glue together, aren't they? But unfortunately, he's our captain, and he's got to step up. And now, we can't just keep losing. It's March, the beginning of March. We've still got till mid-May. It's not like it's 2 games to go to the end of the season and we can all just go, okay, next summer window. We can't do that. And I just feel like where's their fight? I mean, Declan Rice today, did you see when he made that tackle and he went like this? He was like to himself, like, where was the rest of the team? And Martinelli came on and he was like this to the team. Why are the team not up for it? Come on, we need some passion. We don't want to just. There is no title race. We know that. Regardless of what Sky are trying to do, we know there's no title race. We knew that the minute we left. For me, I gave up at West Ham. I know you gave up a little bit before. It's done. So good luck to Sky to try and fill the next couple of months, because, and this is not sour grapes as well, but I say this every season. You need the luck of the rub of the green. You need a bit of luck. You need VAR to go your way, and you need lack of injuries, no injuries. That is Liverpool's season in an absolute sentence. They've had all. They've had it all, and we've had the opposite. So I think we've done pretty well up to a couple of weeks ago, and then it's just fallen by the wayside. And it's just so strange that, again, as I keep saying, we've scored 7 in the week. So maybe we'll win the Champions League. Look at you two. I think you think I've gone insane.
Not without doing something drastic. Okay, so on my good player, given that you've picked probably the only 2 good players that would be worthwhile speaking about, I'd pick one of Timber or Saliba, because I thought Timber got forward quite well. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to pick Timber. I'm debating between Timber or Saliba, because Saliba had a good game, but Arsenal had very little to do. So Timber going forward looked good. He got into some good positions. Retention of the ball was quite well. The player that I would say had a bad game. I mean, again, I'm kind of with you guys. I'd actually say Ethan Nwaneri, because, and you almost can't talk about Nwaneri because he's 17. We all know he's 17. We all know that he's got a great future. We all love him to bits. He's allowed to have bad games. I get all of that, but you are also allowed to say when somebody doesn't play well, and he didn't play well today. Maybe it's because he didn't have the opportunity, but you're going to get games like that as a kid. The other player, I'm going to be a bit cheeky just because, I'm hosting, so I can. I thought Mikel Merino was very average. I thought he's not making the runs that you need him to make. I get it. He's not a centre forward, but even when he dropped into midfield and even when he was picking the ball up in midfield positions, I think he gave the ball away a couple of times. I think his passing wasn't great. He wasn't winning any duels. I don't think he won many duels at all. I was looking at him thinking, you're just a squad player at best. We're playing a squad player, a midfield squad player, as our centre pivot point. And it was quite depressing. And just on your point, James, I want to bring you into this, because let's talk about a tactical point of view. This game felt like a testimonial game, and it was played at Man United's pace. And that pace is first or second gear. And we've been doing this quite a lot this season. It's almost like a tactical thing. We saw it against West Ham. We've seen it in a number of games. Arsenal seem to just slow the ball down, and it's absolutely infuriating. James, my question to you, why do you think, because this is clearly under instruction, why do you think Arteta wants to slow the game down like we've been doing?
I wish I could answer that, mate. We just never seem to break at pace. And I don't know if it's because of the way teams line up against us, in that when we do get those opportunities to break, we just have no space to exploit because the other team are back with 10 men behind the ball. I do think when we do get the opportunities to exploit space, like the West Ham away game is the perfect example. Like that goal Havertz scored where he just kind of ran the length of the pitch and put it past the keeper. When we do occasionally get those opportunities, that's when we can open teams up. That's why it's so important that we score first and we score early, because then teams have an incentive to come onto us. The game opens up, and that's when we can hit teams with 3, 4, 5, 6. But this season, it's just felt, for some reason or another, it's just felt really, really slow. Even Saka at times when he was fit would take it to the byline, slow it down. It's just a turgid.
It's like sorry to interrupt, James, but I want you to riff off of this point I'm about to make. It's almost like Arteta wants to completely remove any risk from football matches. And that then makes what we're seeing at the moment, which is this slow, dull, laborious football. We can talk about the fact that we haven't got any natural strikers. We can talk about the injury problems if we want. But actually, all season, we've been slow and methodical. And football is a game of variance. And what I see when I watch Arsenal is a team that want to remove all of the variables and just play a certain risk-averse way. So I just want you to riff off of that. And then, Amanda, if you can jump in as well after James had his say.
Well, there's no spontaneity in the team, is there? You know, there's no one player that's going to drive at the opposition, beat 3, 4, 5 players, and then pass it, you know, to someone at the back post. It just doesn't really happen. When you look at the PSV game, that Calafiori goal, I think, really summed up the sort of goals I want to see more from Arsenal. Like, you just saw him making that run into the box, and then Odegaard just puts it on a plate for him. Brilliant finish. And that goal's coming from our left back, coming out of absolutely nowhere. And I can't think of a time when we've seen those sort of goals before. So, yeah, I mean, all I can say is, mate, I just want to see more of the unexpected in this team. And I mean, there's so much emphasis on control and domination in Arteta teams. I think we've maybe lost a little bit of that spark that made us so exciting in the 22-23 season. I just don't feel like we've got that, you know, not fire in our belly, but that drive to go forward, that just risk-free in a way sort of football that was so good to watch a couple of seasons ago.
Amanda, your thoughts on why? Why are we so risk-averse now?
Because he wants complete control. He doesn't want to get caught on transition. He just wants to play it out from the back and draw the teams in. It's becoming boring. You look like, you know, if anyone remembers the 80s when we had rush goalie, David Raya looks like he's playing rush goalie at the moment. And it is a little bit boring, to be honest. However, we are second. So something he's doing is working. How long we'll be second for, I don't know. And we are at this stage in the Champions League. So unfortunately for us, it isn't as exciting. I think Karen said it in the chat. Last season, we were fully entertained. This season, we really haven't been. Maybe the odd game, you know, like City at home and stuff like that. It's not how I want to see Arsenal play, but maybe with a complete full side, my brain, a complete fit 11, that it would have been different. We haven't had a fit 11. I don't even know the last time that we've been able to pick every player. Ben White's felt like he's been out for ages. But with Martinelli coming back, we need to have a little bit of positivity. If he's going to play, he doesn't need to play Wednesday night, does he? But maybe he'll come on for another 15, 20 minutes just to get a bit more match fitness. And maybe he can have a bit more of a longer game against Chelsea, because he will give us something that we've been lacking for quite a while. It's just a bit boring, Chris. It's not how we want to see it. But I did say last year, and I said this to everybody, all my non-Arsenal fans, I've really enjoyed the season. Even though we didn't win anything, I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed most of the games. This season, no, I haven't enjoyed most of the games.
Yeah, it's not been great. I think I think Arteta, I agree with what you guys have said. I think he wants to remove all jeopardy out of matches. I think that is problematic for us. I think we've got problems in terms of our recruitment approach. That's caused us issues. I think when you look at some of the top goal scorers at some of the other teams around us, you can see the difference between us and these other teams. And I think it's all just a bit painful at the moment. I want to get to some questions in a minute, but
you understand, Chris, it's painful, but we are second. You watch Spurs, that's bloody painful. You watch United every week, that's painful. I totally get what you're saying, because it's sort of regressed from last season, because it wasn't painful last season. But as I said, we've had so many injuries. I don't know, and a terrible, terrible summer transfer window, and an even worse January one. I mean, Raheem Sterling, just can't even talk about that sort of signing. loan signing. But
well, it's pointless, isn't it? Sorry to interrupt. Raheem Sterling was a pointless signing, and you've got to try and chase the game today. And Sky kept flicking to the. You can tell when people don't watch Arsenal as much as we do, because Sky kept flicking to Raheem Sterling on the bench, and Gary Neville said like, "Oh, you've got somebody like him who can play across the front three." And I was watching it, and I said out loud, "Yeah." But if anyone's actually watched Raheem Sterling this season, you would absolutely know he's not. You can't play him anymore after that Leicester game. You can't play him anymore. We have got to second
give us
Amanda,
anything,
not
Chris.
because of
Sorry,
Amanda.
doesn't.
Hold on, not because we have got to second based on our excellent form prior to that Dubai trip and everyone breaking down and us having essentially no centre forwards. Since that period, we have beaten Leicester, lost to West Ham, drawn 0-0 to Forest, and drawn 1-1 to a frankly terrible Manchester United side who have loads of injuries, who played on Thursday and who look woeful. But I'm looking at the table, and herein lies the biggest problem that we've got, James. We've had 10 draws this season. I feel like last season we only had about 4 or 5 draws, and we had a lot of wins, and we lost sort of 2 or 3 football matches, maybe 4 football matches. But we're not converting this season, and it's because of our lack of attacking threat. Those 10 draws, we've had 15 wins, 10 draws, and 3 defeats. If you're getting to this stage of the season with 3 defeats, you've got 10 games to go. If you say to somebody with 10 games to go, you'll have only lost 3 matches, you'd probably be saying, we'll be up there in a title fight. But it's those draws that are costing us, isn't it? Cooks.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, it comes down to the lack of cutting edge in attack. And that's something that we've got to rectify in the summer. I mean, obviously, it doesn't help that you're missing Gabriel Jesus, Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz, and Gabriel Martinelli's only just come back, and you can't help but wonder where on earth would we be if Nwaneri didn't emerge? Because can you imagine if this kid hadn't come out of the academy?
Yeah,
we would be really stuck. Like, who on earth would play on that right wing? We'd be in a really, really bad situation. So I think next season, I mean, I'm literally counting down the days until this season ends and we can go again in the summer, because I'm looking forward to next season when we've got the options of Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, even Nwaneri, Trossard, if he's going to be a super sub again, let's wait and see. Again, yeah, and I think we need to sign 2 attackers. We need to sign a left winger. We need to sign a striker. And I would move Trossard on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
Amanda,
are saying
we'll
that.
get some questions unless you want to have a final. Do you want us to get some questions and get the hell out of
Yeah,
here?
I just want a little positive that we've signed a new sporting director, Andrea Berta from Atletico Madrid. He's been there over 10 years, hasn't he? Replacing Edu. Hopefully, he knows what we need. That's all I'm going to say. Let's do we've got some different questions, right? So Carl said, how many players do we need to sign in the summer? Now, Cooks, I remember you saying on one podcast we needed about 10. I laughed.
I think 10's a bit of an exaggeration, but we need a lot.
And I was like, we do need a lot. Absolutely. What do you think, Chris?
Right, so we need a reserve goalkeeper. Let's count them out. We need a reserve goalkeeper. I think we're going to need another centre half, because I think they'll move Kivior on in the summer. We need a defense, like a number 6, because Partey and Jorginho are going to go on. We probably need another midfielder of some kind, because particularly if you're moving on Partey and Jorginho. We need a wide forward, and we need a centre forward. So I think we need a minimum of 6. Because of, and if you lose Trossard, you could probably say if you lose Trossard, but you replace him with Nwaneri, then you bring in a centre forward, and we're probably a little bit better stocked, I think, James. What do you think? How many do you think?
I'm probably in agreement with you. I think the one thing that I'd maybe be a little bit more flexible on is the centre half one, because Kivior doesn't play at all at the minute. Calafiori is the guy that can play either left back or left centre half. We've got Miles Lewis-Skelly there now as well. If anything, it might be a left back, because Zinchenko is going to go as well.
Yeah.
Zinchenko will go, Tierney will go, Kivior will go. Zinchenko. So it might just be a left back option that we look to invest in. But I think we're okay at centre half because we've got Ben White that can play there. And I'm not pinning any hope on Tomiyasu, but when he comes back in 2035, we've got him as an option as well. And yeah, I think that the midfield actually does worry me quite a lot, because that's quite a big wholesale change we're going to see. You know, Partey's played virtually every game in the league this season. Jorginho's been, I know he's not been at Arsenal that long, but he does feel like a bit of a part of the furniture. And when he comes in, you know exactly what you're getting. So to lose two experienced guys in your midfield, I think that's going to be quite a big task to replace. So I think we need, like you say, maybe two number sixes. Another attacking midfield option would be great, and then undoubtedly a winger and a striker. They're the two that are non-negotiables for me.
Okay.
Goddo made a really good point, Amanda, worth putting up, actually. Lewis Skelly has played as a midfielder, so potentially I can do that. But the challenge you've got there is that if you're playing Lewis Skelly and Calafiori's injury prone, are we going to rely on Lewis Skelly as our only left back? So you probably make a good point there, James, which is we might need to look at another left back. Amanda, do you want to ask another question?
I'm going right there now. Okay, so I alluded to it, but Karen said, what do you think of the appointment of Alberta as our DOF? I'm happy with it because he knows what he's doing. I'm happy with it because he must know what he's doing. He's been there 10 years and they're a very good side. Cooks, have you got any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't know much about the guy, but I think anyone that's dealt with Simeone for a decade must have pretty thick skin. So I think he's the sort of guy that will come in, challenge Arteta. And he's overseen some really, really, really big deals like Griezmann, Julian Alvarez over the summer. And they've also got some like gems as well, like Rodri came from Villarreal to Atletico Madrid. So I'm excited by him. I just think it's good that we've, not taken a gamble on, say, a Jason Ato or a Thomas Rositzky. We've just gone and got what is arguably the most experienced guy, and he should come in, hit the ground running almost immediately, and start lining up these deals from April time so that we can go into the summer in June, July, and just start getting these players in an Arsenal shirt ASAP.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I think his name's Andrea Berta, not Alberta, but we won't hold that against Karen. I think he's an experienced head. I think if you think about some of the players that he signed, Jan Oblak, who was an absolute rock of a goalkeeper from Benfica for €4 million. He signed Antoine Griezmann, didn't he? And then he sold Antoine Griezmann for Barcelona, and then they re-signed him for half the price, or for like a fraction of the price. They picked up Rodri, I think, from Villarreal, he's an experienced guy who's been around the place, and as James said, it was better to do that than to put that role into the hands of somebody who perhaps would not be as well known as and experienced as dealing with some of these big clubs in Europe.
So hold on, someone's saying he's Italian and not Canadian.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's Italian.
Actually, I thought he was Spanish, but I haven't really looked into it, to be fair. So what you're saying is we could be quite excited about our next summer window. Let's have something.
You'd hope so.
Yes.
The other thing that's good. The other thing that's good actually is that he's actually already left Atletico Madrid, so he can technically start straight away. So he could get into the club now, and he could have a few months sort of getting his black book out and getting the feelers around how the club operates before we moving quickly. What I want to see is quick movement in summer. I don't want to be sat on this podcast at the beginning of August talking about, wow, we haven't signed anyone yet, have we? That is not good enough. We need to move, and we need to move quickly. What are your opinions of the officials in today's game, Amanda?
Both from Greater Manchester. It's just always the same. Most of the officials are from up north, aren't they? To be honest, Anthony Taylor, we should have had a penalty because for me that was handball. VAR should have stepped in on that. I don't think he was that bad. Anyone else? I certainly wouldn't blame him.
He had a bad game. I thought he's all right. I mean, you could probably argue about the whole 11 yards thing, and you should be able to step it out properly, and that's ultimately helped Man United get their only real goal of the game. I don't think I had any issues with how he performed. What about you, James?
No, not really. I mean, the last thing I'm pointing the finger at today is the referee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't think. I mean, it's annoying at times, but it's not. There's nothing referee that we need to discuss, is there? Another point by Goddo. It's not an actual question, but we can make it a question. Declan Rice has to be captain now. I want to see a leader who calls out the others and drags them through games through responsible performances. I like that, Goddo. I don't agree because I think it would be detrimental to Ødegaard. But Cooks, what do you think?
I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but I think you're going backwards a little bit if you do that. I mean, remember under Unai Emery where we had such a debacle over the captaincy. Look, if Rice had come in before Ødegaard, he would be captain. I don't think anyone would dispute that. But Ødegaard was made captain before Declan Rice got to the club. And I do think, you know, he's a quiet leader. He's not the sort of vocal leader that people want to see. But I'm not calling for him to be stripped to the armband. And like you say, I think it would be detrimental to Ødegaard unless he kind of volunteered the captaincy and said, look, I don't want it anymore. In which case, you know, there'd be no ill feeling. But for Arteta to say, we're taking the captaincy off you and giving it to Declan Rice, I think that'd be wrong. And let's not forget, Ødegaard is captain of Norway as well. So it's not like he's an inexperienced guy. So I totally get the sentiment, but I think it'd be a bad move.
Yeah.
Christoph?
Can't argue with that.
No.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that.
Got a couple
We'll do
left.
another one?
Yeah, we've got two more. Karen, do you think we'll actually do the right thing and sign a striker? I 100% think we will. You too?
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I do too.
They'll be up. They'll be like absolute mutiny if they don't. Absolute. Okay, and the last one is quite interesting actually. I forgot to mention this. Question: are Arsenal taking the piss by raising ticket prices for next season? Chris, I'll start with you. You and the cat.
Yep, he wants his dreamies. He's like, can you get off that podcast and feed me my cat crack? So yeah, he's getting some dreamies. I forgot the question. Arsenal, a little bit. I think a little bit. So I've said this on my blog, but I'll say it again for those people obviously who don't read my nonsense that I spout on a regular basis. But my ticket is about £1,000 a year. 5% increase because I'm in the lower tiers is 50 quid. Oh, it's around the 50 quid mark. That's essentially a category B game. So I've essentially been told by Arsenal, you are going to have to pay for an extra category B game this year. Oh, next season. Oh, by the way, there isn't actually a game. You're just paying for one. The other thing about that, okay, James, I'll pass the baton to you after this, is where do Premier League clubs make their money? Sponsorship, TV rights. That's where like most of that income comes from. For an extra few million quid, it seems like why they're passing on certain types of opportunities for costs to fans is a bit beyond me, when most of the money comes from sponsorship and TV revenue. Mr. Cook.
Yeah, I think for you and me, Amanda, where we're sat in the upper tier, it's going to work out to almost 1,500 quid for the season for 19 games. Or do you get more with that? I can't even remember what it works out to. I think they've changed the way it works slightly. So you've got to opt into the cup scheme. I've got to properly read into it before I make any comment on that. But basically, it's going to cost a hell of a lot of money. And I don't like the fact that a lot of other clubs haven't raised season ticket prices. We have. And it's also not in line with inflation. Like if it was in line with inflation, I'd be like, okay, that's okay. I can understand it. But the fact it's not, and it's beyond that, I just don't understand it. And like you say, Chris, there are so many other ways this club can make money. You know, they could do partnerships with sponsors, they could do advertisement, whatever it may be, and passing that cost on to the fans for, you know, what is essentially a week's worth of wages for the players doesn't make sense to me. I also didn't like the way that Arsenal kind of hid it on the club website, and their justification was, you know, the cost of football is getting more and more expensive and we need this investment. No, I'm not buying that, I'm afraid. If this keeps happening season after season after season, you know, in a couple of years' time, we're going to be paying close to $2,000 for a season ticket at Arsenal, and that's mental. That's just not right.
Yeah, we won't be. Yeah, we won't.
So
be,
just for those of you who are interested in RPI, which is the retail price index, which is how inflation is often calculated. There's also CPI, but I'll focus on RPI, is around about 3.5%. So what James was saying about it's not even in line with inflation, and RPI has generally tended to be over the last sort of year or so around about the 3 to 3.5% mark. So what Arsenal are doing is above inflation. So you can't argue why it's inflationary prices. They're going above inflation. This is a money grab. So
yeah, this is This is not going to do anything. Just piss all Arsenal fans off. And I'm a bit confused why you've got 5% and us uppers have got 3%. And they're doing this thing now where they're going to give you two options, aren't they? You can have all your few Champions League tickets in it. Do you know what? They should have just frozen it. They should have just frozen it. It's not going to make any difference to them. It really isn't. 50 quid, no way. I'm peed about it. Right. 2 more and we're going. All right. Phil Macker said, was the worst thing about today having to listen to Gary Neville. Do you know what? He absolutely hates us, doesn't he? And he drives me insane, boys. He really, really does. He had a go at Declan Rice for celebrating for 10 seconds. Get back to the halfway line, he said. Can he not just celebrate a goal? We're not on for the league. It's not as though we needed desperately to win. It's not going to make any difference to our season. We all know Liverpool have won it. Does he not make your blood boil?
Well, he does every whether it's an Arsenal game or, any time I listen to Gary Neville, it's always nonsense. He's just purposely being controversial for the sake of it now. That's how I feel about Gary Neville. I don't take anything he says seriously at all.
No,
I don't actually care about what Gary Neville says. I don't really pay much attention to it. I'm more interested in what we do on the pitch, and what we did on the pitch today was not enough. So I couldn't give him monkeys, and I can't even remember any contentious things Gary Neville said because I was too focused on the game and our performance itself, which was just the most disappointing thing.
And my last one, I'm going to put him on here. He's a work colleague of mine, Mr. Pickford. I think the title was done. I told you that after we left the Emirates. Well done. Enjoy it all. Enjoy all the fact that you've had all the VAR go for you, all the injury that you haven't had go for you, all the luck that's gone for you. But enjoy it, Mr. Pickford, because yes, this is your title. And that's it, boys. We are done.
Thank God for that. Right. Okay. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed the show. Amanda, James and I will be back at some time in the near future. Probably Amanda and James more than me because I'm off on holiday and I can't wait. After that snooze fest of earlier on today, it will be nice for me to get some sun. So I will leave you in their capable hands. But from Amanda, from myself and from James, thank you very much. And shall we say goodbye, Amanda?
We shall say goodbye. Me and James will probably be back next weekend. We're going to be happy, aren't we, James, next weekend? Because we'd have been beaten PSV and beaten Chelsea by 4-0.
Yeah.
Boys and girls, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. It's not been easy. Always Arsenal. Good night, everyone.
Bye.